Chapter 1. The Encounter, a female police officer's mysterious encounter in the 1980s. I had always believed in justice. As a female police officer in the 1980s, I faced challenges that my male counterparts didn't. The streets were rough, and I often found myself in the thick of it, chasing down leads and trying to keep my community safe. One evening, while patrolling a dimly lit alley, I stumbled upon a robbery in progress. As I approached, I saw a tall figure in a leather jacket, his face partially obscured by the shadows. That was James. He was everything I was taught to apprehend, charming, reckless, and dangerously captivating. As I confronted him, I felt a strange pull, a connection that I couldn't quite explain. He smirked at me, and for a split second, I hesitated. Instead of running, he stood his ground, his eyes glinting with mischief. It was a moment that would change everything. I managed to call for backup, but as they arrived, James slipped away, leaving me with a mix of frustration and intrigue. Chapter 2. Crossing Lines. A complicated connection between duty and desire. Days turned into weeks, and I couldn't shake the memory of that encounter. I found myself thinking about James more than I should have. I began to see him as more than just a villain. He was a complex man with layers I wanted to understand. My colleagues warned me to stay away, but I felt drawn to him. One night, I decided to take a risk. I went to a bar known for its shady clientele, hoping to find him. When our eyes met across the crowded room, my heart raced. We talked, and I learned about his life, the choices that led him down this path. He wasn't just a criminal. He was a man trying to survive in a world that seemed to have forgotten him. I knew I was crossing dangerous lines, but I couldn't help myself. Our connection deepened, and soon we were meeting in secret, sharing our dreams and fears. I was falling for a man I was supposed to arrest, and it terrified me. Yet, in those moments, I felt alive, caught between duty and desire, knowing that love often walks hand in hand with danger. Chapter 3. The Breaking Point, a tale of love and betrayal. As the days turned into months, my relationship with James deepened, and I found myself lost in a whirlwind of emotions. He introduced me to a side of life I had never known, one filled with excitement and danger. I felt alive in his presence, but I also felt the weight of my badge pressing down on me. I was torn between my duty as a police officer and my growing love for a man who lived on the edge of the law. One fateful night, everything changed. James invited me to a lavish party thrown by a notorious crime lord. I knew I shouldn't go, but the thrill of being with him was too tempting. As I walked through the doors, I felt a rush of adrenaline. I was in a world where I didn't belong, surrounded by people who lived by their own rules. James was by my side, and for a moment, I felt invincible. But as the night progressed, I witnessed things that shook me to my core. Deals were made, and I realized the extent of James's involvement in the criminal underworld. I watched as he compromised his own morals for power and wealth. It was a side of him I had never seen, and it terrified me. I knew I had to make a choice. I could either walk away from him and my job or dive deeper into a world that threatened to consume me. In the end, I chose love. I thought I could save him, that I could bring him back to the light. But my decision came at a cost. My colleagues began to suspect my loyalty, and soon, I was called into the chief's office. They had evidence of my involvement with James, and I knew I was losing everything. As I handed over my badge, tears streamed down my face. I had compromised my values for a love that was built on a shaky foundation. James stood by my side, but even in that moment, I felt the distance between us grow. I had lost my job, my identity, and a part of myself. I realized that love could be a beautiful, intoxicating thing, but it could also lead to destruction. As I walked out of the precinct for the last time, I knew I had made my choice, but I couldn't help but wonder if I had lost more than I had gained. In the end, I was left with a broken heart, a tarnished badge, and the haunting question of whether love was worth the price I had paid.